Hello, hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of the Worthiness Codes. I'm your host, Jaclyn Francis, and as always, it is so beautiful to be in this space with you today. I hope we are all feeling beautifully, amazingly excited, grateful, all of the things. And yeah, let's dive right into it because today is going to be one of those episodes where you may want to grab a pen and paper or just open your notes app as we are going to dive into boundaries. Boundaries is an incredibly important topic to understand, as being able to set boundaries within your own life is so powerful. First and foremost, I think women specifically have a hard time setting boundaries, just given that this is something we're not taught to do. And typically, when we set boundaries, we can be referred to as being hard or being a bitch, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Being able to set boundaries, sticking to your boundaries, is a reflection that you are in your self-mastery, that you are very much in your power, that you have a healed throat chakra, and that you are confident in all that you are. So understanding what your boundaries are and actually communicating them out loud to others and sticking to your boundaries is a really beautiful reflection at where you're at within your personal power, confidence, divine worth, and self-mastery. So, like everything else in life, there are many layers to everything. Boundaries is one of those things that holds many layers in terms of how you can set them, why you should set them, how they're showing up in your life, where you may be blocked in boundaries. It goes really deep and it will vary person to person. But when I sat with this energy before dropping into this episode to share, there were three core reasons that came to mind in terms of why you should set boundaries, as well as when to set boundaries and what you need to understand in order to set boundaries. So I'm going to dive into those three core aspects of boundaries. And yeah, let's get to it. Okay. The first core reason for boundaries is to protect your peace. And typically this boundary will show up in people in your life who are toxic. So think friends, family members, bosses, those people in your life who are disrupting your peace, who have toxic behavior and are not making you feel the way that you want to feel. So it's important to set a boundary here, right? Because you want to always protect your peace. You want to protect your energy. You don't want someone else taking your power away from you. In order to set the boundary here, what you need to understand is what type of behavior you're no longer okay with and why. To dive into that a little bit deeper, and this is where it gets a little bit of a gray area. People in your life are mirrors, right? If you understand that, they will mirror back to you things that you need to work on, need to heal, especially when it comes to triggers. If someone is triggering you, there's typically a reason for it. And if you have the awareness, you are able to sit with that experience with that person and dive into that trigger to unearth what is at the core of the trigger and why you're being triggered in the first place. Now, I want to make this clear. There will come a point in time, if you have a person in your life that you're close with, typically with family members, and I recently went through this, so I really understand it, is that there may be a family member that is triggering you. And you have the awareness to know that they are triggering you. So you sit and you work on yourself, you work with those triggers, you understand everything deeper. But every single time you see the family member or the person, their behavior is toxic. So it gets to a point where it's no longer a trigger, yet it's a toxic pattern that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the person. And at that point in time, that's when a boundary needs to be set. So this goes back to understanding the why you need to set that boundary, why you're being called to install a boundary within that relationship. Because it's not making you feel good. You can see that this is no longer anything that is revealed through a trigger. This is no longer anything that has to do with you, but everything to do with them. They are knocking you out of your peace. They are knocking you out of your power. They are toxic to you. So that's when you install a boundary. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, totally different energy, is to manifest. So the second core reason that you will want to set boundaries is for manifesting. Now, why you want to set boundaries when it comes to manifestation is because it helps you clearly communicate to the universe what you want without having any blurred lines. Something I see a lot of the time with dating is blurred boundaries. Someone can say that they want a healthy masculine partner, right? And the men that they're dating tend to not represent this healthy masculine partner that they're looking to call in. And every time the woman goes on a date with a new person, that same pattern is being reflected back to them, that this most certainly is not a healthy masculine partner. So instead of cutting that cord right then and there, to set the boundary with the universe to say, okay, this is not what I want, and to back away from it, the woman might agree to a second date. They may agree to keep talking to the person. They may agree to go home with the person. All of those actions create blurred lines. So the universe is like, okay, she's calling in a healthy masculine partner, but she's clearly not ready for a healthy masculine partner because we're putting these men in front of her that are so obviously not showing her that they're in their healthy masculine, they're in their toxic masculinity, and she's still okay with it. She's still exploring the idea of it. So when it comes to that point of becoming aware of what the universe is putting in front of you, these are typically called tests. That's when the universe is testing you to see if you're ready to hold the frequency that you're calling in. So this is when you are meant to set boundaries. This is when, instead of exploring this man in front of you a little bit more, you say no. You say, you know what? It was really nice meeting you, but I'm not interested in a second date. I'm not interested in going home with you. I'm not interested in continuing exploring the possibility of a relationship with you. And watch how the energy shifts. Watch the universe will now understand that, okay, she passed this test. She set a clear boundary. Let's bring her in another partner, someone in a completely different energy, to see how she does with this. Which most of the time, the universe is not going to just put the healthy masculine right in front of you and be like, here you go, here's your gift. It's going to continue with more tests. And the point of these tests is so you can understand if you're ready to hold the frequency or not, because the universe is on your side. The universe doesn't want to give you your gift for then you to just lose it. So being able to set boundaries there, so important. You're communicating to yourself what you want and what you don't want. That's what you need to understand in order to set the boundary. And it's a beautiful reflection to really understand what it is that you want and what you don't want. So then you can set the boundary, communicate with the universe exactly what you want, continue to pass your test until you ultimately can receive the manifestation that you're calling in. Okay, and the third and final aspect to boundaries is confidence, to embody confidence. And when to set this boundary is when you aren't afraid of putting your needs before others. This is rooted in knowing who you are. This is rooted in your divine confidence. This is not coming from a place of confidence rooted in the ego, confidence rooted in insecurity. This is confidence that is rooted in divine worthiness. And when you're able to embody that confidence and show up as that, you understand who you are and you aren't afraid to express that to others because you are okay with putting your needs first because you know that you are worthy of doing so. Now, in order to really be able to do this, it comes down to a healed and activated throat chakra and a healed and activated solar plexus chakra. As a collective, looking at women and men, collectively, the most blocked chakra is the throat chakra. If you look at the biggest fear of the collective, I think this is the fear that may be either just behind death or right above death. I'm not actually positive of where that lands, but it's public speaking. And that comes down to a blocked throat chakra. For women, I know I've talked about this time and time again on this podcast, this is an ancestral wounding that runs really deep amongst women. When women were stripped from their power, when women didn't feel safe to show up in their power, when women were executed because of their power, which is stemmed to the witch wound, this goes really, really, really deep. So in order to really be able to show up within your confidence that's rooted in your divine worthiness, you really have to work on, of course, healing the sacral chakra, the root chakra, really all of the chakras each hold a layer to this, but to embody your confidence and to share that confidence with others in its truest essence, in your truest essence, you have to heal and activate your throat chakra and your solar plexus. Your solar plexus is your powerhouse. That's where confidence, the energy of confidence, is stored. And your throat chakra is your truth, the ability to speak your truth inwardly to yourself as well as outwardly to others. So, taking this boundary a step further, this is what's also tied to people not being able to stick to their boundaries. For some, it may be more difficult to set a boundary than it is to stick to it. And for others, it may be more difficult to stick to a boundary than it is to set a boundary. So it really just depends on where you're at within your boundary journey. I know for me specifically, it's always been really hard to stick to a boundary, especially for people pleasers, especially for someone who also always wants to put the betterment of someone else above themselves, especially in romantic partnerships, right? We tend to do that as women. Sticking to your boundaries is so important, but once you're embodying your truest sense of self, your most divine sense of worth, and fully showing up as your most confident self, sticking to your boundaries becomes so much easier. It becomes so much easier. I can promise you that. So, to just quickly recap, we talked about 3 core aspects and reasons for boundaries. The first is to protect your peace. The second is for manifestation. And the third is for embodying your confidence, right? And now each of the layers that these holds, when it comes to protecting your peace, this will usually want to set boundaries with other people in your life that are causing toxic behavior and they're disrupting your peace. They're taking you out of your power. In order to do this, you have to know what type of behavior you're no longer okay with and why. When it comes to manifestation, this is being able to clearly communicate your boundaries to the universe so the universe knows that you are ready to receive what you're calling in. In order to do this, you really need to understand what you want and what you don't want. And when it comes to embodying confidence, you need to know who you are and you need to not be afraid to show up as her. In order to do this, this is all about healing and activating the throat and the solar plexus chakras. This is also linked to being able to stick to your boundaries. So I know this can be hard. I know this can be intimidating because what I also want you to understand is that if someone doesn't listen to your boundary, if someone is triggered by your boundary, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Right? So if you are setting a boundary that you are confident in, that you know is right for you, that is your truth and what you need in life. And if the other person is not okay with it, don't give in because they're not okay with the boundary. Continue to listen to yourself. Take what the situation is with a grain of salt because you know that it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Give yourself grace here. This comes with practice. It's not just going to happen overnight. You will become more confident and more sure within yourself the deeper that you go inward on your awakening journey, the more that you really understand who you are, and as well as really understand the things that you want in life and the things that you aren't okay with within life. I think there's an art to setting boundaries as well. You don't have to set them in a way that is so harsh. I think to set a boundary is to be in your power and to be very strong within the boundary itself. But you can go about it with grace and you can go about it with love, right? It doesn't mean that you have to show up in this energy of being dismissive or being abrasive. It can be gentle, it can be soft, and still really firm. So digest this all, see what comes up for you, practice setting boundaries in front of a mirror. This is a really good way to just understand how you want the boundary to come across, especially if it's with a person that is a family member, a person that is a close friend, or a boss that you have that relationship with, knowing that they may be triggered by it, knowing that they may not be okay and project everything onto you. So it can take practice. Look at yourself in the mirror, sit in meditation, in the shower, on the toilet, wherever, and just practice setting that boundary out loud so you become a little bit more confident, more stern, yet gentle within how you set the boundary. I think the biggest takeaway from this entire thing, if it were to be one thing, is meet yourself where you're at and don't be hard on yourself. Just become aware of where you're at and see where you need to go from there. If you're realizing that you're having a hard time communicating boundaries within your manifestations, whatever that manifestation may be, become a little bit more aware of, okay, maybe I'm not sure what I actually want when it comes to dating, or maybe I'm not really sure what I want when it comes to my career. It's a really good reflection to dive into that deeper so you can understand yourself a little bit more, right? Same goes for protecting your peace. Like I said, it's really hard to set boundaries with people that you love, people that you care about, but you come first. Protect your peace, protect your energy. Continue to practice, meet yourself where you're at, give yourself grace. This will get easier and easier and easier. The more you do it, the more you stick to it, the more that you know that you are worthy of living from this place. Because what's in alignment to your truth is all that matters at the end of the day. You're able to detach from the things that aren't your truth with unconditional love, as always, and come back to your center and move from there. So I love you. I love you. I love you. Until next time. Bye.